Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Happiest Hour on Earth. I'm your host, Chris.
And I'm your other host, Emily.
And tonight we're bringing it back a little bit because last week we talked about all of the exciting announcements that we heard at Saturday's D23 Experience panel. We talked about all the fun rides and lands, and there was just so much, and we had such a fun time breaking down that panel. What we barely touched, and we thought we got to circle back around to this. We have to talk about this, is Friday's panel, where they talked about the entertainment lineup that they have for the next couple of years, and a little
underwhelming.
Yes, underwhelming for sure. We're going to be talking tonight about, is Disney getting lazy? How many of these movies were actually originals? What would we have wanted to see at this panel? What would have gotten us very excited? And it's just going to be really fun to dive into this, even though it wasn't a fun panel. You know, we're going to be kind of airing our grievances, also coming at it with a level head of, you know, why they're doing this. But we cannot wait to get into this episode. But first, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. We are on our way to 1,000 subs, which is really, really exciting. I think we're at 862. So if you want to be 863 or beyond that, definitely hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on a podcasting platform, go ahead and click that follow button, as well as rate us or review us 5 stars. That means so much and really helps out our show. So thank you in advance for that. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on in.
All right, so diving into tonight's topic. At the entertainment panel at D23, there were a lot of announcements of things that we already knew were coming.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of sequels, obviously, because that's just a big part of what Disney is honing in on right now.
Yeah.
A lot of sequels. So a little less than exciting, because I feel like, you know, it's been a while since we have really been excited for a new movie, like something that is not, you know, previously a theme from another movie. So
on that too, I think we heard a lot, or we got new news about things we already knew about.
Exactly.
As in, like, Moana 2, we had a teaser trailer and then we got a trailer. But it was a lot of things we already knew about. And so we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah. But on the topic of sequels, because that's a big theme for what we heard on that Friday evening, we did a little bit of recon, and it sounds as though Walt Disney was not into the idea of creating sequels. He didn't like the idea of like going back and, you know, adding more onto old stories. He wanted to create new stories. And so we have an exact quote from him, which said, "By nature, I'm an experimenter. To this day, I don't believe in sequels. I can't follow popular cycles. I have to move on to new things." So Disney definitely has not stuck to that goal of his, of just creating new movies. I mean, for a period of time they did. As a matter of fact, from 1937 to 1989, Disney never released a sequel. But the first sequel that they ever came out with was The Rescuers Down Under in 1990, which was the sequel to The Rescuers.
Yeah.
So
that's so surprising for so many years. 52 years, if my math is correct. And it might be incorrect because I'm not great at math, but
close enough.
Yeah, that's crazy that they kept that vision and that drive to always be creating something new. And yes,
he was a live part of that time. If you think about it, he kind of died
66.
right in the middle of this
Yeah.
time frame. And then at some point, it sounds like they were kind of just like, we're running out of ideas. Let's just like create something new from this old movie.
Yeah. And I think when he said that quote, I could be wrong, but I think it was after the success of Snow White, or maybe after a few movies that he did. And they asked him about Snow White 2, will there be a second movie? And that's when he said that quote. And it's interesting because he did definitely take stories that were already folktales, right? Snow White was a folktale. And so he did his adaptation of it.
Yeah, he like recreated those stories.
Yeah, Peter Pan,
made them
Cinderella,
happier.
all of those, right? So he did take something and do it in his own way. And, you know, that's how we all know and love the stories now. But he never wanted to really expand the story. And I think, like the parks, he always wanted to keep expanding the parks. And he said, as long as there's creativity or imagination, if I don't get this exactly right, in the world, Disneyland will never be complete. So he wanted to see the parks as like his playground, his sandbox. But the movies, he wanted to just create one solid, great story from start to finish and let it live like that, you know? And so it's very, very interesting.
I'm kind of torn, honestly. I mean, I totally understand his line of thinking, you know, but I do think that times change, and I like the idea of sequels, but I do think that Disney is also taking it a bit far.
Yeah. Because, I mean, just like Inside
far.
Out 2. Inside Out 2 has become the biggest animated movie box office of all time. I think it's at number 10 overall right now in terms of box office. It was an incredible movie. And so there's certain movies I would definitely like to see, you know, the stories expand. Just like as we are going to be starting with this list, we are starting with Moana 2. I think that's really, really exciting. I think I'm more excited about a Moana 2 than a live action Moana, which I don't think we need. But totally with that, should we jump into this? There's a big list here. We're going to read them off quickly, and then we're going to go back, and we have some highlights that we kind of want to dive in a little bit deeper into. But I'm going to be going quick here. I was going to add Star Wars and Marvel. There was just so much. And we didn't really learn too many new things about those projects, a few new shows here and there. But it was already a lot with just Disney and Pixar, and Avatar is thrown in there, which does not really belong in anything. But let's jump into this. So Moana 2, we heard about first. They released the trailer. We were surprised with a Monster Jam movie coming out with The Rock. Avatar 3, we got a title reveal, Fire and Ash. So a lot of these things, you know, it's like a trailer that we've already gotten trailers for, a title reveal, kind of funny. And then we heard about Pixar's 2 shows that are coming to Disney Plus. Win or Lose, and then Dream Productions. Win or Lose, we got a trailer. Dream Productions, that was the first time we heard about it, which follows Inside Out and the production company who makes the dreams for Riley. Toy Story 5, we got a synopsis finally about toys and their challenge with what kids love most today, electronics. We also heard that Andrew Stanton will be writing and directing this film, and you know, he's been a part of Pixar for a very long time, so that's really exciting. Someone who knows Pixar, the heart and the history behind it, will be making that movie. So that's really exciting. We also heard about Hoppers, which is a Pixar original about a girl who can hop her mind into a robotic beaver. Wow. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with that. Again. We got John Hamm and Bobby Moynihan featured in that film. They talked about Elio, which is going to be the next Pixar movie. They just announced that Zoe Saldana is joining the cast, and there wasn't really anything new about that. We did get another surprise, Incredibles 3. We did not know. Another sequel. We had no idea that was going to be happening. Zootopia 2, they just announced that Kehu Kwan, I hope I'm getting that correct, was announced as a character, so nothing too exciting. Frozen 3, they announced is coming in 2027. Sounds like a 4th movie will be coming as well. They did mention something that said, now you understand why we need 2 movies to tell this story. So it sounds like there's going to be a 4th. Freakier Friday, we got new images and the title. First look at live action Lilo and Stitch. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs trailer. We will be coming back to that one. And then we got a full Mufasa trailer. We had a teaser, but we got another trailer. And then Tron. Ares. I don't know. I forgot how they said it, but it's just Ares. Ars. No, just kidding. Tron's Ars will be composed by Nine Inch Nails. So I think they announced that movie, and they did it's going to be Nine Inch Nails, and I think they announced that Jared Leto is going to be in it. I don't know if that information was known before, but out of all of these announcements, only 4 were original. Out of everything, only 4 were original, and we already knew about 2 of them. So we knew about Elio already and the Win or Lose show. The 2 that we did not know about and were original were Monster Jam, which is already based on a property, so I don't know if that counts, and then Hoppers. So really, the only thing that's out of the blue and just totally original was Hoppers out of that, I don't know, almost 20 list. But let's circle back around to these and kind of talk a little bit about it. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just confused and kind of sad. I just don't feel like I'm excited about anything new for sure. None of the new ones that we hadn't heard about sound very exciting to me.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm like, Hoppers sounds really strange.
However, a lot of Pixar movies sound really strange, and
it just feels like a very Turning Red vibe to me.
It does kind
honest.
of have a Turning Red vibe.
Like they have a lot of these like animal.
Yeah, human and animal. Yeah, that's interesting.
I just don't know why they're going that route.
And then this girl uses like the concept art showed her with like a helmet on, like a virtual reality helmet, and then she could hop her mind into an electronic beaver.
Just very interesting ideas, concepts. Like it doesn't feel like the Disney or Pixar that I know at all. And I just don't know what happened to all the amazing storytellers that used to be a part of Disney and Pixar.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard. And we've said this before. We had such a high expectation for Pixar for so long that even good movies that come out and you're like, oh, that's a decent, movie, is considered like bad in our minds because for the first couple of years, maybe decade, every movie was exceptional, like so perfect. Top and then tier. Now it's like it's hard. You've used a lot of your creativity, and so I mean that happens with everyone, right? Like a creative or writer's block. But
it's been a couple years since they've had that block. I feel like though. It's been a while since I've really been wowed. I mean, Inside Out 2 for sure was incredible. Loved it, but it was a sequel, so I feel like. The thing is, they're running out of good ideas for originals, so they feel like they have to just keep sticking to sequels and live actions. That's just their thing right now. Yeah. And some of them are good, some of them are not at all.
But they know that it's going to make money. And so that's the thing too. We understand why they are resorting to sequels and live action adaptions because they know it's going to make money. Now, when you hear about this, what are people going to get most excited for? I mean, when they announced Incredibles 3, people went wild. When they announced Hoppers, people were like, I guess we'll see. It's an easy money play. When they say Frozen 3 and here's the actual date, people are like, yeah, this is great. But if they're like, now we have a movie about a boy who turns into a skunk, you're like, I don't know. Yeah. I'm not connected to those characters. Yeah. So I understand why they're going that route. We are going to be talking about in a little bit the last original movies that Disney and Pixar did and talk about which ones, were hits and which ones were mediocre. But I want to start here too. We already talked about Hoppers, but the first announcement, we heard a little bit more about Moana 2. Quickly, I think this is going to be great. I'm really excited for this. I think this is a good movie to do a sequel on.
Totally. Not a live action at the same time though. Like what in the world? Yeah. What is that about? How could they be making two movies for the same movie at the same time?
Yeah, we don't need that.
Like Walt would roll in his grave. If he didn't like the idea of sequels and they're making two sequels basically at the same time, he would not like that. And I don't like it. It's unnecessary. Really it's an unnecessary expense for Disney.
It's too
they
soon
could be doing
to do a live action.
So many other things.
Yeah. The Monster Jam one, there's not really too much to say except that The Rock is like the poster child for Disney now.
Literally.
We mentioned this last week. I think this will be kind of like a Fast and Furious for kids. I think this is going to be a big moneymaker. I'm not like super excited about it, but I will definitely see it with our son, and I think it will be fun for the kids who love Monster Jam. It is a great experience, so a movie could be really cool. Yeah, I'm sure. Let's talk a little bit about Toy Story 5. Now, I know we all thought, and a lot of people still think, it should have ended with 3. And I think it should have ended with 3 too. However, we loved the continuation with 4. I think there were some very sweet moments there.
Do I think it was unnecessary? Yes. Was it still good? Yes.
Yeah. And is Toy Story 5 unnecessary? Probably. However, they have an opportunity to make it necessary. I would like some sort of conclusion with the original characters and with Andy. So if they do something like that, then I think the notion of it should have ended with 3 will probably go away if they have this crazy arc back to Andy. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do not do a 6. It's this perfect series. and it circles back around, I think we'll be like, oh, okay, that was necessary to bring it back. And 5 is a nice number.
Yeah.
I always talk about that.
true.
4 is kind of weird. 5 seems
makes
like a
more
little
sense.
too much, but they can make it in a way that is actually really good.
And we definitely already know that something interesting is coming because, like we talked about on the last episode, in the concept art for the movie, we saw Woody among the rest of the toys who he just had said goodbye to in the previous movie.
That is strange.
And you kind of expected that they were just not going to see each other again, or, not for a long time. So who knows what that means? I don't know how this reunion's going to happen, but I'm interested to see. And it's interesting that they put that in there on the very first art for the movie, because it was like the first thing I noticed. I was like, wait a second. They're not all supposed to be together.
I didn't even notice that. That was great that you did it. I think my perfect vision for the movie, Woody, he sees Andy or something and he tries to gather up the toys and go back to Andy and his kids. And then as they're there, they see that Andy's kids are all addicted to technology, right? And even Andy himself is just such a busy dad. And he's, on the computer all day for work and all this stuff. And we're all just distracted and we forgot how to play. And in order for him to, get the technology away from his kids, he has to dive back into that creative, playful mindset that he lost as he got older. And so that's how they connect over these toys. And you see Andy with his kids and they're playing with toys. And they realize that
that would be
actual play is better than just looking at a screen all day. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah.
If I nail that and it comes out, then I get writing
we have
credits
proof.
on the movie.
We have proof for this.
I'm filming this on August 20th, 2024.
And interesting that we don't know who the kid in that room was. Like it could be Bonnie or it could be Andy's child.
Yeah,
could
they
be
did
anyone.
have a blanket over her head, so there is a little secrecy there. But but let's move on to Incredibles 3. This was a huge surprise. Incredibles 2 was great. A trilogy makes sense. A trilogy makes sense for Incredibles. I would like to see a time jump. That would make it more exciting too.
It would make more sense because they've already done 2 movies where the kids were like similar ages.
And I guess we could talk quickly about this too. We want an Inside Out 3. I think a time jump there would be very cool as well, because a sequel is great. Multiple sequels is kind of like, okay, you're overdoing it. However, if we do see how people have changed through the years, I think that makes it more exciting. Just kind of like Riley going from 12 to 13 is only 1 year. However, so much changes during that time. Incredibles, it would be so interesting to see old Mr. and Mrs. Parr and the kids are, adults, and how does that look in their adult life?
The kids are like taking on the roles of being the supers and their parents are old or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do.
That'd be exciting. So yeah, I'm not like super mad about that one. Freakier Friday. This is cool because it's not like, the movie just came out like 10 years ago and we're getting a sequel.
It's a live action
it's been about 21. Yeah.
That we grew up with. It's not like something that's just been in the last couple years
5, 10,
or whatever. I think it's cool that it's so long ago that first one came out and it was so good. So many people's favorites.
And it's a live action movie that is not like a animated to live action. It's something from the past that is a sequel, but we've been talking so much about we want Disney live action movies to be like how they were in the 90s and in the 2000s with
good.
Yeah, with Parent Trap, Remember the Titans, The Kid,
Freaky
National
Friday,
Treasure, all
Princess
these things.
Diaries.
So Princess Diaries, yeah, so great. So hopefully this kind of sparks something. Play it safe by doing a sequel during that time, but maybe this can lead to more live actions. But yeah, really excited for this. We have to jump into this. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. All I'm saying is this. Let me break it down a little bit. So confusing. Okay, so
this has been a process.
Yeah, so I think what happened was, now I might be reading into it a little bit. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, I think they were probably going to have, real dwarves in the movie. And then Peter Dinklage came out and said, I can't believe people are monopolizing off of our, condition, and, it's offensive and everything. And then they were like worried. And around that time, I think it was Wee Man who came out and he's like, there's people like us who want, roles. So would have, hired 7 people. And then I think they did a total 180 and they're like, oh, it's going to be Snow White and the 7 magical creatures. And this image came out and it was like, it's just like, people, I don't know, it just looked kind of funny. Like it just looked
like, what are you doing?
It's just a whole bunch of different types of people, but I don't know. It was like what they were wearing. And we're like, wait, what? The magical creatures? Like, what is this? And they weren't magical creatures. They were just like different people. Right. And then that image came out and everyone was like, what is this? And then all of a sudden they like put out a photo and I was like, hopefully this is just like a not complete version of what these things are going to look like.
I'm pretty sure that's what they're going to look like.
It came out and this photo, I was like, oh, they look like garden gnomes, like half human, half CGI. Weird. I don't know what that is. And so that photo came out and I was like, oh, this is probably like in the works. And then the trailer comes out at D23. It's like, no, they just look like half
fake.
CGI humanoid dwarves. It's kind of unsettling to the eyes because you're like, I know they are supposed to be human, I think, but they look like wooden carvings that were turned into real people.
They went a very interesting route on those guys. I don't know. I just don't. I'm not excited about this one. There's been too much like weirdness with the creation of it. I feel like it's just gonna be like they had to like make so many detours and change so many things that it's gonna just feel really off. I'm not.
Yeah, it's probably gonna veer from the story a bit too.
Probably too much.
I'm very interested to see the ending scene because I feel like there was some sort of rumors about like, oh, the prince doesn't need to save her by like kissing. I don't know if that's gonna be in the movie. I don't know if I don't know. Wasn't that with like Maleficent too? Did someone kiss Sleeping Beauty or was like Maleficent? Did she like kiss her cheek or something? I don't know. I'm trying to remember. That was one that we just kind of watched. But anyways, I'm I don't know. I don't know about this.
Don't know how to feel.
I mean, the first Disney movie ever.
That's what I was just thinking of myself.
Looks botched a bit. It just kind of looks like
it does not look like they took the time to make it well. And the thing is, too, there's already been so many remakes of this movie, not by Disney.
Mirror, Mirror, Snow White and the Huntsman. I don't like that one. If I watched it again, I probably wouldn't care for it.
Didn't feel like Snow White or anything. Yeah. But yes, it's been remade a few times. There was another one also. I can't remember what it was called now, but there was another one. And yeah, so I don't know that it's ever been done very well. And it would be great to have a live action remake that just felt like the essence of that movie, the way that it was done originally. And I just don't think that's how it's going to be for this one. So
yeah, if you're excited for it, we're very sorry
that
we've been trashing it. It could be really good. And if it is good, I'll go see it.
Yeah.
I just don't think I could get over the CGI.
There's been some very interesting CGI animation things, like also with Wish. That one also was a bit to get used to. Yeah. Just feels like they're taking so many like interesting turns and twists with these movies lately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But moving along, just one more we wanted to talk about real quick. Mufasa. I don't think it's necessary, but at least it's not a sequel or straight up live action adaptation. It is telling a story we do not know. So that I think will be interesting. I guess I'm like excited about it, but only if it's different enough and provides like a good story. But I don't know. We'll see. But at least it's not a sequel or a live action adaptation. But
yeah,
we'll leave that there. It looks interesting. It's intriguing.
Yeah, I think it'll be decent. I think it'll be good. I think it's good that we're getting a different story.
Yeah.
That much I'm excited about.
Yeah. So why is Disney doing sequels? Well, let's look at the last Disney originals that we had. We had last year, Wish in 2023, which it was my favorite. I thought there was really good parts to it, but I think it was met with decent responses. That same year, Elemental came out, and we didn't see it in theaters. We watched it after. Our son loves it, and I think it's a very there's some really sweet moments to that movie. It doesn't feel like Pixar quality that we know and love, but yeah, a lot of these movies are like, oh yeah, it's like a 7 out of 10, like kind of just that middle ground. Turning Red, I wanted it to be better. If you love Turning Red, I'm glad you like it. I just I think Inside Out 2 dealt with
adolescence
and teenagehood a lot
much better
in our opinion. Strange World we actually haven't seen yet. I think it was just we don't want to waste our time.
Yeah,
because everyone
of
just like review bombed it and it barely made any money. But we did not see that. Luca, I thought was cute. A lot of these movies we watched at home and not in the theaters, and so theater experiences always make them better. A lot of these movies were being made during the craziness of the world shutting down and everything too, so that could have played a part in it. But Luca, it was cute, but it was right around that same level. Encanto, I think that was definitely their latest like hit for sure.
That a lot of kids really connected with the characters and the songs and stuff.
Yeah. We love Encanto. We do actually have to watch it again. But yeah, I think Encanto was definitely their last hit. And so that came out in 2021. We also had Raya in the I just put Raya, but it's Raya and the Last Dragon, right? Which there was some really sweet scenes in that too. A few times. Yeah. I love her dad, who's always talking about peace among the clans and everything. And so that was great. Onward, we love Onward. Onward's great.
I do love it. I think
the ending is so good. That was in 2020.
I think it was the start of me feeling like Pixar was changing.
Yeah.
Like it still didn't quite hit me the same way that a lot of them did. It was very, very sweet, very emotional.
Had a little bit of DreamWorks vibes.
A little bit with the animation and the characters. I just feel like I hadn't seen like mythical creatures so much in a Pixar movie. But overall, I do love that movie. I love the characters, and it's a very sweet story.
Yeah, I do want to watch that again. And then we had Coco, which was 2017. And so even though I think Encanto was the last hit and met with like better than average reviews, right? I think Coco was their last like masterpiece. So 2017. So it's been 37 years. But yeah, so I think that kind of plays a part into why they're doing sequels a lot, because a lot of these movies, I mean, obviously they didn't really make much at the box office because a lot of these came out on streaming, but yeah, they were just, some of them were just decent with a few exceptions here. But let's jump into real quick, just our final section of this episode. We don't have too many ideas, but just a little bit of what we would have liked to see. First, let's start off with live action. What would we have liked to see with the live action portion of, this panel? I think instead of what they're doing, which is taking an animated movie and turning it into live action, we would love to see them, start creating those originals like we had in the 80s and the 2000s. Like we said, Freaky Friday, Parent Trap, Remember the Titans, Parts of the Caribbean, The Kid, National Treasure, all these movies. That would be ideal. However, that's not going to create like a lot of buzz. But if they were working on it, kind of in the background and came out with something that's just really heartfelt and a really good story, and just kickstart that creativity to keep going. Also, even if they made another ride-based movie, I mean, I don't think we need another one, but that's also kind of like a safe bet, but it's better than like an animated turn to live action. Like we've talked about Big Thunder Mountain. There's a crazy storyline to that no one knows about. Or even the Phantom. Oh my gosh, Phantom
I was gonna say
Manor. Like the French one, that storyline is crazy. Tower of Terror.
Would be amazing.
I thought they were making one. I think there is one in the works. That would be amazing. And have it like National Treasure, like Haunted Mansion.
There's a lot. The thing is, there's like so many rides in Disney World and in all of the other countries' parks. They can make movies based on so many of those rides because Disney always has some sort of story attached to a ride.
And so Jungle Cruise was the last one they did that for, and I thought that was
they could do Matterhorn, they could do Everest.
Yeah, and I know that's not perfect. I know that's not like exactly what we want to see. However, that's
fun.
better. That's better than just saying, hey, we're going to take a, Pinocchio and turn it into, which they did. I forgot they did that. I was just trying to think of one they haven't, but they've done it to almost every movie. But yeah, let's do some ride ones to kind of kickstart it. And then hopefully from there, they could come up with some originals. I was thinking Pirates of the Caribbean and National Treasure is a perfect example of that. Pirates of the Caribbean and National Treasure have similar feels. Pirates based off a ride, National Treasure, an original story.
History.
Yeah, history. But I think they kind of used Pirates as a springboard to come up with another action adventure. And so I think that would be really cool to see. When it comes to animated movies, though, we would have loved, instead of all these sequels, for them to say, and we're doing our first 2D animated movie that we've done since Princess and the Frog, which I think was 2009. So it's been a very long time. This would have brought in a lot of numbers. We know that they're doing sequels because it brings in a lot of numbers. But if you did an original with 2D style animation again, that's also a safe bet, because people are like, oh my gosh, Disney's going back to 2D. Let's go see what this is all about.
Yeah.
But if they keep doing sequels and never, do another original one, you don't know what's going to be the next Frozen. I know that you could have some bombs and people aren't going to be seeing your movie, but if you find a really good story that people connect with, like Frozen, then bam, you got all that money in again, and then you could down the line do a sequel to that.
Yeah.
But you gotta expand and test things out.
Gotta be more originals. I feel like it's been quite a while since we've had a new princess movie. I was thinking about that, and I would love to have a new princess introduced. I think because we were talking about the 2D thing, I was thinking about Princess and the Frog and love that movie. But yeah, it's been so long since they've added a new princess in, and I feel like it's about time now.
I think so too.
They could.
Whenever Disney does princesses, those movies are always
great.
Always even like
good.
Moana, right? Like Moana, the Polynesian princess.
Yeah. I was thinking about it. I was like, was she supposed to like kind of be a princess? But no, she's not. She was just like somebody in that town. But I would love to see another princess movie.
So yeah, there's been a few, but whenever they do that, they usually excel at that. The last one we have here though is series. I don't really think we heard too much about series besides the Pixar series. We did not even hear Dream Productions, right? Yeah. We did not hear about a Tiana series, which they had announced in the past, and now they haven't really said anything about it. But we would have loved, Emily, you tell us what we would have loved to see the most.
Well, our favorite thing, as you may know already, our favorite thing on Disney Plus has always been the Imagineering story. It's just been the like go-to thing that if we're just like needing some Disney of some kind, something that we don't need to like pay super close attention to, but it's just brings the Disney feels, we always put on the Imagineering story. Yeah. The best docu-series ever. Yep. I feel like it's just the best. And there's been a lot of other ones similar to that. Not series necessarily, but other documentaries, like the one about Mickey that was a couple years ago now. There was One Day at Disney. We loved that one.
Yeah, those are amazing.
Just like that was the one that was like shorts.
Yeah,
right?
so
like,
there was
really
one big like an hour long one, but then there was the little tiny shorts where it just said, hey, this guy is the scuba diver on the Finding Nemo subs, and he has to make sure everything's working correctly. So it's like 5 minutes and highlighting stories of Disney cast members.
All the cast members that you may not know the stories about and what they do behind the scenes. I loved that. Yeah. Those are the things that make me appreciate Disney so much. So I always loved watching those shows. Yeah. And we haven't gotten anything of that sort in so long. And I feel like they could have expanded on the Imagineering story at this point. For a while, it was like there probably wasn't enough going on for them to like create a whole new section to that series. Yeah. But I think a lot has changed over the last few years. There's been a lot of additions all over the country and beyond. And they could have totally created more. I feel like if they listened to the fans, they would know that kind of thing goes so well. Yeah. For us.
They did do a behind the attraction season 2. So I did Love
That was
that.
a
But
good
yeah,
show,
more
too.
content like that would be great. One that I thought that they could have done for something that's coming out soon. They're doing the album A Whole New Sound, which is, you know, all the old punk rock bands from like the early 2000s, and they're putting together a compilation album, and they haven't really done that since they did do like a Disney lo-fi album, which was really cool, but they used to have Disney Mania back in the day, which was all the pop stars. But I thought it would have been so cool to do a documentary, because they have been getting into music stuff recently. They did a Beach Boys documentary that was amazing.
So good.
But if they, you know, filmed some of these bands, talk about like how they got started, show old footage of them playing their shows and their music, but then also talk about the, you know, when they kind of fell in love with Disney and what it was like to write their renditions of these songs, maybe film them in the recording studios, all these different bands, and just like more behind the scenes stuff like that. This is such a cool opportunity to do these like top bands from back in the day. So why not film it and come out with something kind of commemorating this really cool experience?
Especially
but not just that, but everything else too.
Yeah. I think that for our generation specifically, we would love to have something like that, because it's all the bands that we have always loved and kind of grew up on as teenagers.
Yeah.
So that would have been a fun idea. I wish that they would do things like that. It's like those ideas, just nobody thinks of it, and it's crazy to me.
Yeah,
Just
definitely.
us.
That would have been so fun. Also, one more quick one I was just thinking, and we might have episodes on this, you know, down the line, but with Halloween and Christmas coming up, it would have been cool to hear some specials about like Halloween or Christmas from characters that we know and love. Like, obviously they're doing so many sequels, but they're not giving us like a 20-minute episode. Like, imagine you know, where Moana lives or something like that, and see them decorate, like something like that, where it's characters we know and love, but it's celebrating the holidays. It's just a little short special. I think they've done that in the past, which is really cool, but I love seeing the characters outside of a movie just celebrating a holiday and doing things like that. So something special like that would have been really cool. But that's our list. It was so fun, like, for such a boring panel. Sorry to say that. This was really fun to go over and kind of give our thoughts and break down some of the things that might not have been too exciting.
Yeah, that could have been better. Definitely some of it could have been better. It was fun to just kind of just go over it. And see.
I feel like we had to air it out, because I think we were holding it in too much. We were just trying to focus on the parks panel. Yeah. And then we're like, we need to get this out too.
Yeah. Yeah. We brushed over it quickly, but we had a lot more thoughts than that. So yeah, I guess it's good that we chatted about it in a whole different episode.
Yeah, definitely. But we just want to say thank you so much for listening to our show and supporting us. It truly means so much. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on a podcasting platform, hit that follow button. It helps out so much. But we love you, and we will see you guys next week for another episode of The Happiest Hour on Earth. We'll see you then.
Bye. Guys.